Okay, so a big thank you to Mezzi's for hosting a very beautiful spread over here. I don't know if they can see the sushi on the camera. So, yeah, usually want people, like more people at the shear, but there'll be more sushi left.
Well, that's why I'm saying.
Fewer people. Okay, so we'll pass this around. We'll use this as like an outline of what we're going to talk about. I don't know if we're going to get to everything that's here, but so if you want to take a look at it, you can. If you want to use it as a sushi plate, you can. Just look at it, but we'll be going through bits and pieces of this. What I would really like to do is to try to give over all the halachos that I can, and then to have time for questions and to clarify and discuss anything we need to. But to go through all the halachos that we can about getting the house ready for Pesach. Just getting everything ready. We'll try to touch even on kashering the kitchen a little bit, just doing a basic overview and try to do like a crash course of getting it all. Get a few more. Guys, put them out over there, maybe on the table. Try to get as much of these halachos in as we can in the time that we have, and then we'll take it from there. So I would like to start with the halachos of getting ready for Pesach, like starting now, like Pesach cleaning and preparation and what we need to do to start getting the house ready for Pesach. I know some of you probably have already started working on the house, and the goal is to try to make it very, very clear exactly what the halachos are, to do the halachos properly, but not to do extra and too much, and Pesach becomes a time that becomes very overwhelming a lot of time, especially for the men who have tired wives like that, and it's a so it's a time that a lot of people get take it too far sometimes even. So I really want to make sure that we're very, very clear on the halachos. And if you want to clean extra and do more and do spring cleaning at the same time, so by all means you have the right to do that. But it's important to know what the halacha requires and demands as far as cleaning and getting the house ready is concerned, and what we're just doing because we want to feel good about the house being cleaned once a year. But that's not really what the Torah requires. So the basic overview of halacha when it comes to chametz is as follows. There are 3 halachos in the Torah that address chametz on Pesach. 3 mitzvahs in the Torah, 2 los aseis and 1 mitzvah aseh. The 2 los aseis, the 2 negative commandments, are essentially the same. They're 2 similar, very, very similar. One is bal yera'eh, not seeing chametz. The pasuk says, matzos yachal al shivas yomim, eat matzos for 7 days. V'lo yira lecha chametz. You're not allowed to see chametz. V'lo yira lecha seor. You're not allowed to see leaven in all of your property. And Chazal understand this to mean, together with the second halacha of lo yimatzeh, right? Shivas yomim seor lo yimatzeh bebateichem. You're not allowed to find seor. Kol ochel machmetzes. If a person would eat chametz, they would be cut off. Nechreses nefesh hayim me'adas Israel. Right? Anybody who eats chametz will get cut off. So we have this central isser of eating chametz on Pesach. That's the major avera. And because the avera is so severe, so the Torah adds on levels of prohibitions that we're not even allowed to own chametz. So this halacha of not seeing chametz only applies to chametz that it belongs to me. I'm not allowed to see chametz if it's mine. And the way the halacha is the ownership of chametz. If I'm sitting in a place and there's a non-Jewish person there and he's eating a sandwich, there's no isser of me seeing that sandwich. It's only not seeing chametz that's mine. So these are the 2 los aseis, bal yira bal yimatzeh, and not eating the chametz. And then third, we have a mitzvah aseh. There's no kidneys, except for the roll-up, all the sushi, it's kidneys. We have a mitzvah to destroy the chametz, right? That you could be mechaben, over here, while we're eating. So there's a mitzvah to destroy the chametz. That's the mitzvah tashbisu. B'yom harishon tashbisu seor mevateichem. We have to destroy the chametz from our property. Okay, so the mitzvah aseh, a positive commandment to destroy the chametz that we have on our way into Pesach. I want to put a few of them down there so that nobody else comes. And then we have these los aseis of not being allowed to own chametz, not being able to encounter chametz that belongs to us. So these are the mitzvahs min haTorah. Okay. So now min haTorah, if a person would not eat any chametz, so a person could basically just say all of my property is hefker. I just hereby declare everything ownerless. And they would technically be okay. And that's in fact one of the things that we do is we do this thing called bittul chametz, that we nullify the chametz and we declare it ownerless. However, Chazal said that's not enough. It's not enough to declare my chametz ownerless in my house. Because I'm so used to eating chametz all year round. It's something that's so normal, it's so natural, it's so just a normal course of life. So we're worried that even if there's chametz that doesn't belong to me, even if I have chametz that I have made hefker, it doesn't belong to anybody, but if it's just around in my house the way that it normally is, I may come to accidentally eat it over Pesach. So Chazal said we have a special mitzvah of bedikas chametz. We have a seek and destroy mitzvah where we're not allowed to allow ourselves to keep chametz around our house over Pesach midrabanan. Okay, so the way the halacha is structured is as follows: Min Torah, there's an issur deraisa to eat chametz. Because there's an issur deraisa to eat chametz, there's an issur deraisa then also to own chametz on Pesach. Now Chazal came and said two mitzvahs midrabanan in order to make sure that number one, what if there's chametz tucked away somewhere that I don't know about? Right? Let's say I looked all around and I didn't find it. So Chazal said I have to nullify all the chametz. I have to do bittul. I have to say any chametz that I have, whether I know about it or not, at some point is going to become ownerless. However, again, that's not enough. Since I can't, maybe I'm going to open up a drawer and I won't be thinking about it. I'll take out a candy bar and I'll eat it. So Chazal said I also have to go and search out my house and get rid of any chametz that I have, and that's the mitzvah of bedika. Yeah.
Aren't the mitzvah Chazal essentially extensions of the third mitzvah in the Torah of destroying chametz?
Well, it's centered around it. In other words, it's to make sure. No, I mean the mitzvah of bedika is to make sure. The lashon of Chazal is Shema Yimtza Gluska Yafa. Maybe a person over the course of the Yom Tov will find a nice loaf of bread and will forget himself and eat it. So in other words, so we're required to go around and try to find all the chametz to make sure that we don't accidentally encounter it over Yom Tov. And we're required to destroy whatever chametz that we have. That's the mitzvah daraisa. But the bedika is not in order to facilitate the biur. We wouldn't need to search for chametz. We could just have chametz in order to do that. Right? I have the chametz here to destroy. The mitzvah of seeking out the chametz is to make sure that I don't accidentally encounter it over Yom Tov. That's the idea of the bedika. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm jumping to something you're going to get to, but if you're going to be away.
Yeah, so we'll get to all that. Yeah, let's move forward. Yeah, but before we get to questions, let's move forward, and then we'll, especially before anything practical, we're just kind of introducing the ideas first. Okay, so now, based on this understanding, based on this idea of what the structure is of the of the halacha, so all the halachas that are going to happen, follow from here. You'll notice that there's no halacha of cleaning for Pesach, right? It doesn't say anywhere, clean your house for Pesach, right?
I can quote you on that, right?
I'm sorry, yeah, for sure you can, 100%. There's no halacha. However, right, the lashon in the Mishnah is that a person, the halacha is that since a person is going to come to the night of Yud Daled and have the mitzvah of bedika to do, right? As we'll get to the halachos of the bedika, it's a special, mitzvah that is its own separate halachos. A person is going to get to the night right before Yom Tov and have the mitzvah of bedika to do. If they didn't prepare their house in advance, it's not going to be possible to get the house ready in time for Pesach, right? In other words, if you're going to rely on the night of bedikas chametz to actually start going through your whole house and finding all the Cheerios in your kids' drawers and finding all the candy bars stuck in your backpack and finding this and that, you're not going to be able to actually do that just in one night, right? So the halacha of bedikas chametz, of cleaning for Pesach, is getting your house ready for the bedika. And it's very, very important to keep that in mind, because therefore anything that is subject to a bedika needs to be cleaned, and anything that is not subject to a bedika does not need to be cleaned. And that's why it's very important to realize this. Okay? So
one more time, can you clarify?
Yeah, I'll say it again. Yeah, the idea of Pesach cleaning is, right, why do we clean the house before Pesach and go through the room and do all the kid stuff? The reason is because there's a halacha the night before Pesach. I have to do bedikas chametz on all of my property. Anything I'm going to own over Pesach, we'll get to this whole halacha about renting out rooms and all that, we'll get to it. But anything I'm going to own over Pesach, I have a mitzvah, like we just said, so I make sure I don't encounter accidentally chametz over Pesach. I have a mitzvah to go through everything and search and make sure there's no chametz there. If a person would just start doing that on the night before Pesach, again, that means going through all the knapsacks and all the suitcases and all the pockets of all the clothing. That's all the halachos of the bedikas. You have to go through everything. It's not really possible to do that in one night, right? So we start that process earlier by going through the kids' drawers and going room by room and declaring a room chametz free, right, in advance, so that when we do the bedika, it'll go much quicker. We'll discuss how you can do a bedika on a room earlier than the night before Pesach, so that you don't even have to do every room that night, because that could also take a very long time. We'll get to that tonight. Yeah.
I've had people say, I don't need to check upstairs because I know there's no food.
So we'll get to that. We'll get to it in a minute. We'll get to it in a few minutes. We'll go through it. Okay, so the halachos again of cleaning are based on the halachos of the bedika, meaning anything that needs a bedika is going to need to be cleaned before Pesach, and whatever we're searching for in the bedika is what we are cleaning for. So when it comes to what areas that require a bedika, so first of all we have to know it's any area that I own or rent that I'm going to be going into over Pesach. Okay, meaning any place that I don't plan on going into over Pesach, and when I say place, I don't just mean an office. It could be a car, or it could be a cabinet in the house, or a room in the house, or a shelf in a cabinet in the house.
Does outside qualify a backyard?
Any place, if you want to make your backyard off limits, meaning so any place you're going to sell for Pesach does not need to be checked. And if it doesn't need to be checked, it does not need to be cleaned.
So if you're going away for the whole Pesach.
If you're going away for the whole Pesach and you're planning on selling up your whole house, so you don't need to do anything. I'm saying that you don't need to do anything at all.
You're going to ask me, do I have to clean the private jet if we're not going to use it over Pesach?
If you're not, I thought you were lending it to us. Sorry, we'll clean it. We'll clean it. Yeah. So anything that you're not going to use over Pesach, right? This is just like advice now. Because the halacha is you have to check all of your clothing and all of your kids' clothing for chametz. So anything that you're not going to be using over Pesach. So, let's say the winter coats, let's say if you were past all the cold weather, let's say, so the winter coats and all of those things, so put them in a closet and close that closet up for Pesach, and then you don't have to check all that stuff, you don't have to go through their, summer, their summer bags and their summer this and their summer that, just anything you don't want to bother with cleaning and checking and dealing with, you could seal away for Pesach and sell. In other words, like, I have closets in the house where there's clothing that, the winter clothing and the summer clothing, we just seal away those closets, we don't check everything there. We have suitcases and all sorts of things that for sure can have chametz in them from traveling. We just cover it over with a sheet, we put a sign on it, sold to a guy, and that's it. If we don't check it, we don't clean it, we don't do a bedika there, that area is sold to a guy.
So you're still selling it, meaning it's not like...
It's sold. The area is sold. It says in the contract that I give to to Revise, any area that is marked off as sold to the guy in my home is sold. And we have 2 shelves in the fridge that are covered over with paper, and behind those shelves we have stuff that we either real chametz that we're selling or other stuff that we don't want to bother selling and checking, etc. Any area that you're planning on sealing off, you have a closet, a room, a basement, an attic, a yard, a shed, anything you're planning on sealing off. So you don't need to clean there, you don't need to check there, and on the contrary, that's where you're going to put all of your chametz stuff and close that area off for Pesach. Okay, so that's number one. So only areas that you're going to, if you're not going to go to your office. I don't go into the seminary at all over Pesach. I sell my office. Everything in my office is sold. Everything I don't.
Doesn't need a bedika?
No, nothing. I don't touch it. I don't clean it. Whatever the granola bars are there. I don't go to get it. No, I will not go to get it.
What does it mean to sell your office if you don't own your office?
I'm sorry?
If you don't own your office, what does it mean to sell your office?
No. If you don't own your office, so then you're. Your private space, like your drawers or your things like that. So those are your. Like
I'm selling when I do the cop, I'm selling the stuff in my drawers because the desk is not mine still.
So if you're talking about an office, that's not yours. So that's interesting. I'm saying you're not going to be in work over Pesach. You're not going to work over Pesach, and it physically does not belong to you. In other words, they can move you to a different desk. They can go and say, "I'm sorry, we need to move you to a different desk today. Move your stuff out." Now that's fine. That that would happen like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that requires. It doesn't require bedika. I guess there's nothing to check there. You have to sell any chametz that you might have there. I'm saying, if you
selling
don't.
the chametz, I'm not selling my.
Yeah, no, there's nothing to sell. I'm saying it's not yours. I don't need to sell it. That's other whoever. Wherever the places are, they would need to sell it if it's a Jewish place. But your thing. It depends. In other words, in the seminary, we tell the girls that the rooms, are, obviously they belong to me, and I can move them around if I want to. But even so, they have a responsibility to do a bedika there. In other words, it is theirs in that respect. But that's only if they're going to be there every yontif. If they're not there every yontif, and they're just getting rid of it, so then it's either way it's going to be sold, either with your sale or with the company sale. Either way the chametz will be sold. Okay.
Can I be a bit childish and ask?
I'm sorry?
Can I be a bit childish and ask you to define what chametz is?
Yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get to it in a second. Yeah, it's right now. Yeah. So I just want to address one thing before we flip the page over and we talk about what chametz is and what we're looking for. I just one point before we turn the page over. When it comes to hard to reach places, right? So there's also something people when they do Pesach cleaning, sometimes they'll move out ovens and they'll move out fridges and they'll move appliances and they'll move all sorts of things. So do you have to do that or not? So the poskim say a very simple thing. If you would drop, there's to say, like in America, a $10 bill. I don't know, in America, maybe in Israel, let's say a 20 shekel bill. If you would drop a 20 shekel bill behind that stove, would you move it to get it, or would you say, oh, you know what, we'll just move it when we move, we'll find that 20 shekels. That's basically the get it, right? That's the idea. Because if it's a type of situation that you may find yourself moving it over Pesach, you may lose 20 shekel there over Pesach, and you may need to move it, so then you need to clean there from before Pesach, because that's a place that you're going to be encountering. But let's say you have like a bookshelf like this, which is, attached to a wall, or you have something that's like, a very big ASEC to move, and you don't ever move it, and it's not that, like a big refrigerator, an industrial freezer, or anything like that, and you don't ever move it, and if something falls back there, you tell your kids, sorry, we'll find it when we move, or something like that, so then that's not something that needs to be moved for Pesach cleaning, because we're not worried that you're going to
Even
be
if I know for a
encountering.
fact, like, my kid will knock over a pizza crust over the top, it is drilled into the wall, so I can never, so if I know for a
Yeah, no,
fact,
if it's physically fell behind and you're not ever going to be moving it, so then it's made hefker, and we're not worried you're going to encounter it because you're not going to unscrew it, exactly. That's
How
it.
much schmear do I have to put on myself? Sort of thing? For example, I know, let's say something does drop behind there, so I'll wait 5 days and take it up in 5 days. I'm saying, wait a week and take it out in a week. Why do I have to be chayshir about it? The whole year I'm not worried about it. I've never moved my fridge.
If it's the type of thing that you'll wait a while till you move it, so then I guess that's the same thing, that we're not worried.
Is
you're
that
gonna,
good enough?
Yeah, I think so. It's not something. It's not so pressing that you would move something to move it. I don't know, if $100 bill fell, I wouldn't wait. I would move it because I'd be afraid water would get back there, something would happen. I would move it. But for 20 shekel, maybe I would wait. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so that's as far as the places that need cleaning in bedika, just to make it clear again, the places that are sold mat, and any other place that you're going to be using over Pesach, so that you're going to need to go through and see and clear out and address. Okay, now what are we looking for when it comes to the bedika? What is the bedika for? What are we looking for? What are we trying to deal with? What is chametz? So we know, right, chametz is something that is leavened bread, crackers, anything that rose and has the halachic status of leaven, that we call chametz. However, in order for it to be chametz, that's usher for me to own on Pesach, it has to be edible. Right? It has to be edible chametz, and it has to be chametz that a person would normally eat. But if you have crumbs and bits of food that are smushed into corners and behind couches and things like that, so the halacha is that is not usher in bal yirah bal yimatzeh, only if there's a kazayas, meaning if you would have like a couch and there's so many crumbs behind the couch that if you put all the crumbs together, you'll have a kazayas of crumbs, a number of Cheerios, a lot of them, not just 2 or 3. So then that already is a problem. But that's also just important to realize. In other words, the bedika that we're doing is not for crumbs. The point of the bedikas is not to be scraping out crumbs. The point of the bedikas is to make sure, again, that we're not going to encounter chametz that we may accidentally eat over Pesach. So again, the point of Pesach cleaning is not to be scouring out, crumbs from every corner and every which place in the kitchen we'll deal with. In the kitchen, where it may encounter food, we have to deal with it much more seriously. Right? But the point of Pesach cleaning is not the bedika is not the crumbs and the little bits and the cracks and all of these things that people go overboard with. The real point of it is to make sure that there's no real chametz around, to go through again all of your drawers in your bedrooms and in your kids' rooms and the closets and all of the bags and all of the clothing and all the suitcases and behind the couches and all of these places. Those are the places that you have to be looking for.
You're not going to eat a Cheerio that's found in the back of
And your kid
bag.
will. Of course your kid will. Of course he will. Your kid, of course he will. The kid will find the Cheerio in
When
the
I ever go
toys.
hungry, I know where to look for Cheerios.
My kids won't even eat dinner like put on the table. They'll only eat Cheerio in the
Rob,
backpack.
what the Rav says that like the Cheerios that are spread out throughout the couch will start all join.
If it's in one kli, like one couch is one kli, or in one
two
car.
separate couches, not the same.
2 separate couches, not one kli. In one kli, the crumbs are mitzaref to kazayah. So in a car, the poskim say, if you've got a lot of crumbs, that would be a problem. But let's say if you have a car that's relatively clean, it's not a car. Let's say you have a work car and the kids don't go in it, and you don't eat like a kid in your car. But you do have some crumbs here and there and bits and pieces. You don't need to clean that car for Pesach, right? Because you have to check again. You have to check for a candy bar, and you have to check for a box of Cheerios that maybe fell out in the back when you were doing groceries. That's what you really have to check for. The crumbs that are ground into the floor of the car is not really what we're bothered by on Pesach. You can't eat those crumbs, right? In other words, food that falls on the floor, we'll address that, right? In other words, you can't eat even little disgusting crumbs, but that's not usher to own, and that's not what we need to clean, and that's not what we need to do the bedika for. Yeah.
Well, if the cars, just people forget sometimes the cup holders are a problem because I put cups inside there and there's all this stuff in there and then it gets on my hands, things like that.
Yeah, that could also, yeah, you wipe out that stuff for sure, yeah, for sure. That's a contact with food. That's
I was gonna say, what if you have a Cheerio on your couch, hypothetically, just one, and that means that sometimes your kids are eating your couch, which means that on Pesach they might be eating something on the couch.
So, okay, could be,
Could
no, a whole Cheerio is maybe already a problem that somebody
But
may
even
find
crumbs,
to
you
eat
say
it,
they
but-
can drop. Let's say they drop like a matzo ball, whatever they're eating on the couch, and then they pick it up and it's got little crumbs on it, and it's not betel
So,
b'shishim.
yeah, but okay, that's not what we're. That's not what goes the bedika for. You understand? In other words, I agree with you. If something falls on the floor, you should train your kids that they can't eat it until they wash it off. But Chazal didn't make a gzera that you have to clean out the back of your couches because maybe a matzah ball will find there. They made a gzera, maybe you're going to find a matzah ball. Right.
Next.
So that's how it goes. Okay, so now, so in terms of the kitchen, so we're not talking about here about kashering and getting the kitchen, ready, for Pesach in terms of, turning it over. But any area where there's chametz or any places that chametz come in contact have to definitely be cleaned because, again, only areas you're going to use in your kitchen also. If you've got cabinets and you've got a dishwasher and you're not going to use that dishwasher for Pesach, so you don't have to touch it, you don't have to clean it, you can put all your dishes in there and close it off for Pesach. If you have cabinets that you want to seal off for Pesach, so you just seal them off, you don't need to clean it. I remember as a kid in my parents' house, going crazy cleaning china cabinets and then sealing them off for Pesach. You know what I mean? So there's no reason to do that. If a place is being sealed off even in the kitchen, you don't need to clean it. You don't need to do anything over there. But all areas where chametz comes in contact have to be thoroughly cleaned. So that's the refrigerators, the shelves, and the gaskets, and all those things, the cupboards and the cabinets, and all these places. I'm not talking about places where food is prepared. That's a separate thing where hot food comes in contact. But I'm just talking about places where food is, that all has to be cleaned and taken care of very well. And the kitchen floor, if there's any place that you have to be careful for crumbs and really clean thoroughly, it's the kitchen floor. But again, not because of Pesach cleaning and bedikas chametz, but just because in the kitchen stuff falls on the floor a lot. And over Pesach, if food falls on the floor, a knife falls on the floor, so there's some people of the minute, no matter what happens, they'll always bring it to the bathroom sink to wash it off because they're always nervous that, who knows what ends up on the floor from shoes and crumbs and this and that from here and there. So anything that falls on the floor, they won't wash off in the Pesach sink. We don't do that at home. We'll rinse it off in the Pesach sink, but you should definitely rinse things off if they go on the floor, and if you didn't clean the floor very well, or if you're in a room where you didn't clean, or let's say, like I said, in your car, let's say you took my shear seriously and you didn't vacuum out your car, and something falls on the floor, so then definitely don't eat it until you wipe it off very well, or make sure that there's no chametz on it or anything like that. You know what I mean? In other words, again, I just want to make that clear. There's a difference between the halachos of what you have to do for cleaning and Pesach and bedika, and what's practical to do to make sure that you don't end up eating crumbs, right? But that's okay. That's as far as the kitchen is concerned. Again, the floor and the walls anywhere where, around the backsplash and places where food can come in contact or pots and pans come in contact, so those areas need to be cleaned, and often we'll cover them also, which we'll get to later. The living room, the dining rooms, the couches and chairs have to be cleaned. Carpets should be shampooed if possible, just to make sure then, that all of the stuff is getting out properly. And again, if not, then if stuff falls there on Pesach, you have to be much more careful with it. In the bedroom, you have to go through the nightstands, any clothing that's going to be used for Pesach, that all has to be gone through. Okay,
You
toys.
have to literally clean out the pockets in the clothing you use of Pesach?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're chayiv to do a bedika in every pocket of any clothing you're going to wear for Pesach, which is why I only keep out 2 suits for Pesach and put everything else away, so they don't have to do this, right? But that's right. In my closet, I have stuff hanging, and I put a sheet over it, and I say sold, so I don't have to check all of that stuff. One suit.
Where I gotta go through all the pockets, and enough to send it to the cleaners and know that if there's been
No, because the
Not be
cleaners
spoiled by
because if there's a candy bar in there or something, the cleaners will just leave it in the pocket. I get back stuff in the
no,
coffee
but I'm
in
not
the
talking about
pocket.
candy bar. I'm talking about crumbs. I
No,
have to
but
worry
crumbs
about
you don't
it.
have to. You
I
have a
to
mitzvah.
literally cut out and pull out crumbs.
No, but you have to do a bedika in every pocket. There's a mitzvah. The leil of bedikas chametz is a mitzvah to do bedika or masa, specifically the kisim of your clothing, because those are places shemachnisim lo chametz. I put stuff in my pockets all the time, so that's a place that needs a bedika. We're going to get to in a few minutes how you could kind of do it in advance so that you don't have to check every pocket the night of the bedika. We'll get to that.
But the flame on your shoe pants.
Well, yeah, use a flashlight.
Just to clarify, but what I'm looking for is whole chametz. I'm not looking for a pocket lint. I'm not looking for little crumbs.
No, you're not looking for that. But you should, if you do have that kind of stuff in your pockets, you should really be careful not to put food there over Pesach. Anything in your pockets, candy or gum or anything like that, or pills, anything in your pockets that you might carry around, you have to be careful. Anything that's going to go in your mouth, you should not put into your pockets. Okay, now when it comes to toys, So this is also very important, because there's two things. First of all, in toys, there is real chametz that can be found, easily. And often we'll find food in toys, or oatmeal, or crackers, or who knows what, pretzels, and that's really edible stuff that a kid could find and eat. So that's for sure. The toys have to be cleaned well, in that respect. But also because kids put toys in their mouth and they, eat with food and they do all those things. And the toys that get used year round for sure are used with greasy, chametzy hands. And you definitely have to be careful with those toys coming into Pesach. So again, what we try to do for Pesach is there's a certain amount of toys that we just put away. In other words, like the stuff that's like really, really complicated. Really,
people wash out the doll's hair.
I mean, the stuff that you're going to use for Pesach, I'm not saying that you're chayiv to do that, but you definitely are chayiv to ruffle through the hair to make sure that there's no Cheerios stuck in the hair. You know what I mean? That's not something that's unusual at all.
Strollers.
I'm sorry?
Strollers.
Yeah, for sure you have to go through the stroller. You have to
How can you possibly?
you can put it in the washing machine. You can take off the stuff and put it in the washing machine. It's but the stroller for sure. That's a place that chametz gets stuck, and then over Pesach, your food falls down there, and you pick it out from there, or keys fall in there. That's for sure. A stroller is a place where food gets stuck and stuff gets stuck. That's
Just remember
yeah.
disassembling the
In terms
stroller.
of clothing though, if you never put food in your clothes,
If you never put food in your pockets, then you don't have to check. That's a makom she'ein machnisin bo chametz. It's a place where chametz never goes. If that's
Put your gardening Friday night, when you're walking home, you have to...
not gardening on Friday night.
okay. So as far as the toys are concerned, so number one, toys that the kids don't need to use over Pesach, it's really better to put away so that they don't end up using them, and that way you don't have to clean them and deal with it. Toys that they really need to use on Pesach, or that they want to use, you want them to use, etc. So you should really wash them off well with a bathtub or something. But that's like a project that really needs to get done. That the kids should be, make sure that they're eating, playing with chametz-free toys, and it's also preferable not to let toys come to the table because again, just these are such chametz-stick things, and it's hard to make sure that they're totally clean. Obviously, if something you're sure is totally clean, and you're confident to bring it to the table, you're allowed to. But it's just kind of thing you have to be very careful about. And same when it comes to books. Also as a kid, thank you very much. I remember growing up, going through every book on the bookshelf, whether we looked at them or not that year, the whole Encyclopedia Britannica, going through it,
What about
and all of these
this
things.
pamphlet now?
And this pamphlet is all over here, right? Yeah,
Pencils
don't, shouldn't bring this pamphlet into Pesach. So the halacha is like this also, that again, with books, we're not worried in a book that there's going to actually be a Cheerio, right, or a candy bar in a book. We're only worried about crumbs. So the halacha is you don't really have to go through your books. However, you can't bring them to the table on Pesach, right? In other words, because there may be crumbs in there, so you're allowed to read a book even if there's a couple of crumbs in the book, but you have to be careful that those crumbs don't end up in your chicken soup or on your table and then you're eating it with your matzah, right? So if you want to go through your books meticulously and clean them and then be comfortable to bring them to the table on Pesach, b'vakasha, you have a right to do that. I don't bring any books to the table on Pesach. I have a small shtender that I keep by the side of the table, which I cover for Pesach, and I only put svarim over there for Pesach, and I don't let anything come from there to the table.
Sorry that you checked also?
I don't check my svarim. I don't. I just,
That's the service.
look, things like the benchers and things like that we put away. The svarim that I use at my Shabbos table I put away. Those I won't bring over there. But my regular svarim, which do come to the table and don't, and this and that, on Pesach I try to remember never to bring them to the table. I keep them by the side, and I won't put anything there that's going to come to the table. It's like Switzerland or whatever.
It's not just books really. It's just like anything that comes.
Anything that comes to the table, yeah, stuff that comes to the
What
table.
about like the
that
light Shabbos like different?
so that you clean off well. That you can clean off well, and then it's fine. Yeah, as anything we're gonna see that.
You don't need a kasher like.
No, you don't need a kasher or anything like that. No, that you just have to clean off well and what to do. Okay, now.
See the issue
Okay.
with like value matzah and value rara.
Yes.
So it seems like it seems like we're kind of ignoring that. Because like as long as you're like mafkir everything, basically those isurim don't apply.
Well, correct. We hope they don't apply, right? I'm saying we certainly hope so. Because I was trying to set us up so that we don't have them apply.
When we have in mind that everything's hefker, we're including every little crumb in every single book also.
Well, no, those crumbs, there's no isser on Bali Rabbi Matzah. That's the point. In other words,
There shouldn't be an issur.
anyway, it's hefker, right? That's
Use it even.
Well, no, you can't eat it though. That's what I'm saying. To bring it to the table when the crumbs may fall into your food, that's a problem. But you're allowed to use the books, just not at the table. Yeah.
If you did bring it to the table and you didn't eat from it, you would see the crumbs.
There's no isser on crumbs. There's no isser Bali Rabbi Bali Matzah on crumbs unless it's a kazayas. There's no isser. There's no.
So you're not being mafkir then anyway.
The crumbs are memela hefker. You don't need to be mafkir them. That's the halacha. The Gemara says that pirurim bakli umafkri something. They're the hefker memela.
It's already done.
They're already hefker. You don't need to be mevatel them, but you can't eat them. So if you bring a sefer to the table and you've got hefker crumbs, those crumbs can still end up in your chicken soup. So it's not owning them that's the issue. It's the potentially eating them.
I think part of the issue that maybe David was mentioning is that we don't have it anywhere here listed as eating as being yes.
No, yeah. The second one it says and not to eat. It says the kol ochel nachmetz. That's the nichasa. That's the second. The second lav is the achila that the two are built on.
Okay.
Isn't it?
And no, I'm just trying. I guess let me ask it this way: if we're saying that to get around Bal Yira and Bal Matzeh, you're mafkir everything,
Right.
but you're not mafkir crumbs.
Right.
Because crumbs are not mafkir; they're already hefker.
Right.
So you can see. So you can see chametz crumbs.
But you can't eat them.
You can eat them.
Right.
But you're still. But like.
So there's no issue to own them, right? That's why you don't have to
You're saying the
scour
same
your
thing,
house for
right?
every crumb, but you're not allowed to eat them. So you have to take precautions to make sure you don't end up eating those
You can
crumbs.
still see them.
But that's not. They don't enter into the isser until they're too small to be in.
Well, is the seeing a function of it being yours? I can't see my own chametz.
Oh, correct. Okay,
That's
right.
the
Okay,
difference.
not
Your own
own. I'm sorry.
chametz.
That's the answer. The answer,
It's your own
right.
chametz.
It's hefker because it's so small. You don't own it, so you're not.
So Bal Yira, Bal Matzeh is only on.
Because that's
Only what you own.
Yours.
Only what you own. Only what you own. Not only on it
If you walk
because
back past the bakery, that's not violating by
Right.
That's not an issue. You watch bread all day long. It's not yours.
It's once it's less than a kazayis, it's not chashuv enough to have an owner on it. So you're not considered the owner of it. Right? That's the.
Thank you.
But you still can't eat it. You still can't eat it. Okay. Now, when it comes to that's as far as Pesach cleaning
We'll
goes.
skip the whole issue of not eating.
But I guess maybe I did, but I thought I said it. I'm saying it's in the second one, in the second pasuk that we went to. It says, "Ki kol ochel machmetzes menichas nefesh ahi." Anybody who eats chametz is cut off. I thought I said it. I'm not saying, maybe I didn't specify it strongly enough, and it's not in English, right? Okay, it's not the English one. I'll try to fix it up.
Is there a limit on how a minimum size?
No, for achila, no.
I thought even a
No,
mashu.
achila, even a mashu, for sure.
Crumbs
Achila,
are
even a mashu.
considered,
Yes,
so.
yeah. Chatzi shir aser min Torah, even a mashu.
So there are 4 Yisurim in the Torah, essentially?
There are when it comes to ownership of chametz, there are 2. When it comes to eating of chametz, there's 1, and there's 1 mitzvah asay to destroy chametz. So four mitzvahs in total.
Right.
Right, 3 pertaining to ownership, meaning like destroying and bal yira, bal matzeh, and 1 pertaining to eating.
Just back to I guess what Menachem was saying about just even a mashu. You said that if it's not food, it's not considered chametz for bal yira, bal matzeh. But what if you like, let's say you have shampoo that's chametz?
Oh, we'll get to that.
And what if
We'll
you
get
eat it actually accidentally?
Oh, so
What if
we'll get to it.
it's
So
liquid?
we're gonna get to it. We'll get to it.
Shampoo.
We'll get to it.
That's why his is public.
You've got other issues.
I hope I put it on.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I would think flavor
More
vanilla.
stuff, let's go.
Okay, we'll get to all the shampoos.
We're
and
gonna
all
talk
this.
about this tie balls. We gotta get into the tie thing.
You gotta move.
Okay, so now when it comes to the bedika itself, there's a difference between, like we've been saying, like the Pesach cleaning is getting ready, but then we have a mitzvah of the bedika itself. So it's very important that we understand exactly what the mitzvah is of the bedika, meaning what we're going to do the night before Pesach, because certain parts of this we're going to import into the earlier nights in order to do the mitzvah of bedika early, so that we don't have to do every single pocket and every single couch pillow on the night of the bedika. Okay, so the mitzvah of bedika has like 4 rules, basically, that we're saying over here. Number 1, it can't just be that I'm looking around the house and searching for chametz. It has to be done for the sake of bedika. I'm doing the mitzvah of bedika, not just looking around and making sure my house is clean and appropriate. If I went into a room and I saw that there was nothing in that room, I still am not yotzei my bedika until I went in and looked for chametz. That's number 1. All right, so just cleaning is not enough. I have to be looking for chametz. Number 2, it has to be done by the light of a candle or a flashlight or a room that is lit up brightly by lights and there's not like shadows. That counts enough. In other words, you don't need to look on a flashlight on a countertop like this. If you could see it clearly, but behind things or where there's shadows, you should look with a flashlight. Number 3. I'm sorry? It's much more fun, of course, but not necessarily for the women who are doing it during the week, the nights before. They don't really need to bother with a flashlight for the fun. They want to just get the job done. So the point is, if they can look into a pocket with the light of the room, they don't need to hold a thing in their mouth like, 007 looking into the pocket, or, you know what I'm saying? They don't need to do that. You can look into the light of the room. Okay, number 3, it should be done the night of the 14th, right? L'chatchila, it should be done that night, the night of, right before Pesach. And we make a bracha when we do it in the proper time. Meaning, if you are home the night before Pesach and you're doing a bedika that night, so it's done with a bracha. Any time other than that, you're not going to make a bracha. So if a family is going away for Yontif and they're leaving a day or two before, so they're going to do a bedika. Let's say they're not selling their house. Let's say they're coming back on Chol Hamoed, so they're going to do a bedika on their house, but they're not going to make a bracha that year, right? But if you're doing it the night before bedika chametz, you make a bracha. Okay.
Is it better for like the Mezzis, let's say, to convince Yaakov Whitman to come do a bedika for them in their house?
Why?
If they're going away,
If he's
just
going
like you
away.
do with the bracha?
Oh, I see.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's better. It's better with a shliach with a bracha. But I mean, first of all, are they coming back
But I
for
could
a
do it, I
chametz?
could do it not in a house.
No, if you're
staying
leaving,
in
yeah, you're doing it there. Yeah,
If I'm renting a place in
yeah.
Florida
Then
or
you'll do it
wherever
there.
I'm
Yeah,
going,
yeah.
I could do it there.
You do it there. Yeah, for sure.
Or
No, if
maybe
you're
I'll
selling
buy
this
it.
house, if you're going to sell this house, then you're
Also,
going
is
to
it a
sell
function for me to do it on myself? Like if I hear like, is it a function on the house? Is it a function on the individual? If I'm in a house that's doing it anyways, and I
No, so it is
say,
better
"No,
to
no,
do it
no."
like this. In other words, like what I tell the people, let's say in a dorm, where let's say you have apartment people sharing an apartment, so that each one is actually chayiv in a bedika, and one of them is leaving a few nights early, and the other one is leaving the night of bedikas chametz. So it is a halacha in general. Is it better to do a mitzvah? And so each one has the mitzvah bedika. In other words, this roommate checking her stuff is not going to help this roommate checking her room. You know what I mean? She has a mitzvah to make sure that her stuff is checked.
Although if their roommates literally in the same room.
But still, I'm saying she still has her drawers and her stuff. Again, if she's coming back on Chol Hamoed, she's not selling everything, right? So then she has a choice either to check it early without a bracha, or to appoint her roommate as a shliach to do it in the right time. So the halacha is, it's better to do it bismano with a
So
shliach.
his question was on me. I'm not going to be here. Period. I'm not coming back.
Right, so no, so you should just sell the house. I'm saying you should just sell the house, yeah. But
It's-
I thought he was asking theoretically, is it better for a person to do it with a shliach in the right time,
Bismano,
or to do it themselves
So the
not in
answer
the
is
right
I'm not
time?
doing any
So,
bedika.
Right.
Period.
there's no obligation in Bedika if you're going to somebody else's house.
Well, if you're staying in their room, in a room there, so then that's like your room. What they say you should do is you should rent it from them. If you're really staying in somebody's house for Yontif, what's really preferable to do, and I tell this to girls also, single girls who are going to different places' house, so they should, rent. You give $5 and officially rent the room from the night before, and that way you can do the bdika with the bracha. Because otherwise, it's a shayla if you make a
Even
bracha.
like if I'm going to like.
Yeah, if you go, yeah.
Especially
So that halachically,
Give
that
them some
room
of
is
something.
yours. You know what I mean?
Well, so one last question on this topic.
Yeah,
just
sure.
If I'm going away, but I remember when I was working, this is like this. I'm only arriving
So you have to do bdika that morning then.
I do a bedika, and then I coming in at 12 o'clock at Erev Pesach.
You have to do
I
bdika
do
when
it
you get
at
there.
that point, I
Yeah.
come and do
Even on
bdika.
Chol Hamoed, if you go to a hotel on Chol Hamoed, you have to do
What about
bdika
if I
when
know
you
the
get there.
bottom of the place, the owner of the place already did it?
No, so then it's done. Then it's baduk. Then it's baduk, and there's makom she'em machniz muchametz. That's fine.
But, so that means the mitzvah of bedika is not really on me. It's wherever I'm going to be, there should be a bedika done.
You are responsible to make sure that you are in a place where you are not going to have access accidentally to chametz. If you know that it's done already.
That's a separate mitzvah. The mitzvah of bedika itself, I'm not being mekayim this year.
Yeah, so you said that you miss out, but you're not doing anything wrong because you're staying in places that were baduk. So everything is okay. Now, so the story is like this: if people are going now, let's say starting this week, and starting to clean the house already for Pesach, and already going through the children's rooms and going through the children's clothing and going through their knapsacks and all of these things. So what you should do really is as follows: that night, because the bedikas has to be done at night, it can't be done during the day. That's part of one of the halachos that are done. That night, preferably, really what should be done is that night after you, let's say you cleaned up your kid's room and now you've already told your kids no more chametz up there, nobody bringing anything in there. That night you should go back. When you're done, you or your husband, somebody should go back over bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, with a flashlight and just go over everything that you just did that day for the bedika, meaning having in mind that you're already doing the bedika then. And then the night of bedikas chametz, you don't have to go back into that room at all. Meaning, don't go in there and put a Cheerio in there. Don't do anything. That room is already done, and you can do that on your whole house. You should leave something for the last night so that you could do the bedika with the bracha. You know what I mean? And this is what we do also. In other words, all the kids' clothing and their knapsacks and all of those things we go through before the night of the bedika. So the night of the bedika, we go in and we look on the countertops in the rooms, and we look in the main places in the rooms, and we look, in the main places, and that's where my wife will put out the 10, pieces of chametz. But all the nitty gritty places and the harder to get places, so that we've already, the clothing that we're selling is already put to the side. The clothing that we're going to be using, it's already been checked from before, so that we don't have to go through it that night. So that's really the best way to do it. So again, this is really often much more on the women because they're the ones who are going methodically through the house during these weeks often. So just to make the bedika that much more efficient, it's really preferable that the night after you've done cleaning, or if you're doing cleaning at night, it's even better that you should just like have in mind that you're doing it for the bedika, and then you don't have to go back and do it again the other night. But if you didn't, if you just cleaned the house and cleaned through the rooms, and then the night of the bedika, you really have to go back and look again all the places where you were, and and then you're fine. Okay. Okay, we spoke already about renting out to a non-Jew. The bedika, l'chachila, time for the bedika should be on the night of the 14th, already, immediately after Pesach Chavim. Okay, so we discussed, already either for
Is there a
Pesach.
limit to how early before I can do this preliminary bedica? Meaning if I know
30
I have a
days.
storage room that's been locked for a year, I haven't touched it.
No, so
since last year.
it doesn't need a bedika. Any place that you're not going to be in from 30 days before, and you're not going to be there for Pesach, then you don't have to do it at all.
And if I want to be there, but I know that it was still clean for a year, I haven't unlocked it.
No, so that's fine. It's a makom shein machnisis bo
You're
chametz.
required to sell it.
I'm sorry?
You're still required to sell it.
Yeah.
Well, no, if it's a place let's say you have
I know that there's comments in my storage house, but I don't go there.
no, yeah, if you know there's chametz there for sure, yeah, for sure. But then you don't have
I'm
to do
talking about a
bedika
place
there.
that I checked a year ago. And
Yeah, no, then you don't have to check it.
So it's not a mitzvah that 30 days before I just have to check a place. It has to be within X amount of time.
Any place that you are going to be in over Pesach.
I have to know there's no chametz,
Correct.
however I know that.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
So, if I work in America, my parents' house. As an example, that house has my chametz in it, but it's their house and they're going to do a sale. I usually sell my chametz there. Should they be selling the chametz there instead? Because I don't
Well-
own any of that space.
No, that's fine. But we sell chametz agav the space that you're selling here. In other words, that's a chametz sale question, and you can sell your chametz in America over here. The point is that wherever your chametz is sitting in your parents' house, obviously that area they have to seal off. You know what I mean? But if it's your
Right.
chametz, then they can
But
sell
some
it.
of the difference would be that if it'll be in their house and I'll own it again while it's still Pesach for them.
That's fine. It's not Pesach for you. That's fine.
Okay.
And then that's fine for those hours. I mean, this year it's not going to really happen because the
Well,
Shabbos there.
it's still
first,
7
right?
hours or whatever. I'm saying.
Right, but
the
the
time.
Shabbos, it's already. We're only getting it back when it's past
I'm
the
planning on
second.
making
day.
the show no.
I want to get the Sephardi matzahs to have for Shabbos, so that you can do that this year.
Wafa.
Okay. Okay, so I don't want to go through the. Okay, so just the rest of the halachos of the bedika are outlined here on this page. For 30 minutes before Pesach Chavim, you're not allowed to get involved in anything else like Hanukkah candles. You're not allowed to get involved in a meal. You shouldn't even have a snack. You're not allowed to learn Torah. You're not allowed to do place cleaning, kashering, cooking. That's important for the women to know. Very often that night there's a lot of cooking going on, but starting for 30 minutes before the bedika, you have to stop cooking. You have to wait until the bedika gets, happens. Okay, then we make the bracha, the bracha of the bedikas is on al biur chametz, because again, like the mitzvah in the Torah is the destruction of chametz, which we're going to do the following morning. So we make the bracha on the biur, on the destruction, because the bedika is like the first step towards the destruction of the chametz, so we do the bedika then.
Why is it not considered a hefsek
But from the bracha, well, because there's a good question. The poskim deal with this because since I'm starting, there's no hefsek. You're not supposed to do a hefsek before the bedika. In other words, and since the bedika is the beginning of the process, which I can only finish tomorrow, so like the bracha is chal on the bedika, and it goes on to the biur. In other words, it's not like typical birchas a mitzvah that's connected to the biur. It's connected more to the bedika, and then it lasts till the biur somehow. You know what I mean? It's like not a.
Even though I'm doing other things.
It's interesting. I never thought about it that way. Interesting in terms of the hefsek until the biur. We view it as a mitzvah on the bedika. We treat it like that. You're saying then how is it any way connected to the biur? That's a good question. Because the bracha is al biur chametz, but so we view the bedika as the beginning of the process. But okay, here that's a good question. Then after the bedika, after you go around and you check and you find those 10 pieces, the minig is to put out the 10 pieces just to make sure that it's not a bracha levatala. So that's often what happens. The men will go to Ma'ariv at that time, and the women will put out the pieces of bread, and when the men come back, so that's when they'll do the bedika, and they'll find those 10 pieces. So then after the 10 pieces, we say their first bittul, but we say it very careful lashon over here. Yeah.
In the real world, let's say we've done everything the way the Rav discussed. How long should a bedika realistically take in that case?
There's no answer. It depends. I'm saying you have to do your car, you have to do your house, you have to. It
But
depends
if I did my car Tuesday night, and then realistically it could be done in 10 minutes.
if you've done everything by the book and you've only left your dining room, so you could do it in 5 minutes, yeah, for sure. But I'm saying if you don't, it could take hours.
Is there something wrong with doing it that way? Is it less to do
no,
that way?
no. If you've done it right every night of the week and you've been doing it step by step, and as long as you've left one place to make a bracha, that's totally lechatchila. Totally lechatchila. And it's fine to do it the other way also. There are people who take a long time to do it. We don't do a very long bedikas at all. We just, like we try to do as much as we can in advance. And like I said, we look over the main places and the main countertops, and certainly places where we've been, those days and stuff like that. We found stuff. I one time found challah in the freezer, like a wrapped up bag of, my wife baked challah, and she pulls off the challah, and there were, somehow or another a little bag, and during the bedikas I found it there. I one time found something in the car, in the trunk of the car, the grocery that had come out. People just
You're not really to get a hana from Mafresh Challah.
But I still own it. I'm saying, so also to have it over Pesach.
Do you own it? Is it
Yeah,
considered
I think so. I think so.
ownership? Is it really?
That's a good question. Okay, it's a good question. Very good. I hear it. That's a good
Name making
question.
problems.
I hear that. And, the minhag is to burn it with the chametz. That's what most people do. So, burn it with the chametz.
But even if you didn't find it, your mafkir, right? So
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. But still, but Chazal gave us. We're not allowed to be somech on the hefker.
we can try.
No, correct. Yeah, correct.
I'm saying if you found it, then
It's a good thing. I'm saying it shows that we're taking it right. We're doing it right.
Find it.
Yeah.
So just going back to if you're somewhere else, because I'm gonna have guests with me. So let's use Pinchas as the example again. At his in-laws' house, he should do a separate bracha and a separate searching and separate 10 pieces of bread in his room that he's renting?
No, if he wants to be yotze with the bracha of the family and do it with the family that way, so you could do that. Also, I'm saying, you could do it. You could do
Do it
that.
all together.
Yeah, you could do it together with them either way.
But he should still rent a specific space?
Once you're not making the bracha anyway, and you're just going to be yotze with somebody else's bracha, so then I don't know if you need to do that then. I don't know if is there a mila to do that? No. But once you're taking part in the bedikas anyway, so you're participating in the mitzvah. I was just saying that more.
But the guy's
in
checking
situations.
his space. I'm saying.
I'm sorry?
He's checking his space. How are you being? I'm saying, let's say you walk into my house while
No,
I'm
you're participating in the mitzvah.
bracha.
I know, but you're participating in the mitzvah of the bedikas in the house where you're going to be. That's what I mean. Like being mishtatef at the mitzvah over there. You're doing part of it. You are. That guy is a chiyuv, the father-in-law has a chiyuv to check this area, and I'm checking it for him, so I'm participating in the mitzvah. And I think that's fine. I don't think you need to rent the room then if you're going to do that. Okay, like we said, there's an Indian use. Again, we say at the end, we say kol chamir v'chamia, but this time we say only the chametz that I don't know about, I'm making hefker. Right? Because at this point, I still have chametz that I do know about. Right? I'm still going to be eating chametz for breakfast tomorrow morning. I've still got the bagels or who knows what, the Cheerios for breakfast. So at this point, but however, since I've already done the bedikas, I've already checked everywhere, I've already looked over everything, I have to make sure that anything I don't know about is now made hefker. Right? And that's what we say that night. Then the next morning, after we eat chametz and we do the actual biur, and we burn the chametz, at that point is when we say kol chamir v'chamia, the yadana, the lo yadana, that I know about, that I don't know about, that I found, that I didn't find. At that point is when we do the final, bittul, and everything is completely made hefker at that point. Okay, but at this point, hopefully, we have clear in terms of the Pesach cleaning, doing the bedikas, what areas need the bedikas in terms of selling. The question that comes up every year: what to happen? If you do find chametz on Pesach l'maisa, what do you do? Practically speaking, halach l'maisa. If you did a valid sale of chametz and you find chametz on Pesach, you just put it with the guy's stuff. That's all you should do. You don't flush it down the toilet. You sold it. It's not yours. It's not yours to put away. If you find it on Yontif, it's muktzah. On Yontif itself, it's muktzah. You can't move it on Yontif itself. You're supposed to cover it over with something. So again, so you don't accidentally eat it. In other words, let's say it just happened somehow or another. One of the kids opens up the piano on Yontif Day, and oh my gosh, we didn't look there, and there's a piece of bread right there in the piano. Oh my gosh, we just didn't realize that. So on Yontif, it's muktzah. You put something over it to cover it so that you don't see it, and don't accidentally eat it. And then after Yontif, you put it into where the guy's stuff is. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, do you sell chametz for for other people with Russia?
No. I just go through my wife's. Last year he had a website that he did. 2 years ago. Last year they didn't have it. I'm going to see if he's going to have it again this year.
Chabad
to do a website. Yeah, Chabad does the website. I don't.
But
I
I'm
don't
saying
know
the words are
Websites
different. I know.
for Kenyan?
Well, the way that Rabbi Weiss did it was good. I don't know.
What was the trick? You got it.
Yeah, what did you say?
Oh, no, I was
It's a
gonna say
star,
that-
or whatever it is.
Where I used to, the Rav in Soda Spring used to have wording in there, if you get chametz on Pesach, like, it's not that you found it in your house, like, let's say you have guests coming over and they
Right,
bring
but I-
your
happened
kids
somebody-
Play-Doh or
right,
something,
that happened
they
somebody
don't realize
around,
it's
yeah.
chametz.
From
So it was worded in the sale, anything that comes into my dish on it, but I think, like he said, it specifically had to be there. Do you know if Rav Asher has
I
that
don't
there
know.
wording?
I mean, I know that there's a question whether that works because you can't be makna davar shelo b'la'olam. There's a question whether that works or not. Whether you're allowed to make it, to say that anything that I get can be something else. I know somebody who had the shaila. Somebody whose a relative came to them on Pesach and went to duty free and bought them a bottle of really really good double black. I don't know, like they bought them a really nice bottle of something, and so the psak they got was to flush it down the toilet. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. That's
No.
I don't know if that was the what the whites would say or not. But that was they said no shit double black. Double black. Double black.
You can't just have it
You
line
just
like
say-
you're not the
you just
Makabel
be
or something.
Not
I'm
Makabel.
sorry.
If someone brought you chametz, couldn't you just mevatel it?
No, so once it's owned by a Jew on Pesach, it's usher forever. Once a Jew had it even for a second on Pesach, it's usher. And there's a Jewish person who bought it, at the store. Yeah, chametz shavar on Pesach is usher. You can never have benefit from it.
One was like Ben Green Airports.
What are you doing, sorry?
The Grand Airport sells the duty free.
No, if it was owned by a Jew, if a Jewish person.
Airport, I presume it's owned by a Jew.
What is?
I presume the wine shop.
Ben Gurion Airport has a sale.
Liquor store in Ben Gurion Airport.
No, I'm sure they sell their chametz. I'm sure they sell it.
I've seen it. They have
I'm sure
a
they
I'm
chametz
sure they
sale.
sell. I'm sure they sell chametz. They put it up in there.
No, but they sell the business to a guy for Pesach. They do like any factory or any.
It's the boys' kids.
Once the Jew owns it, you can't benefit from it.
I know, but when they sell it for Pesach, they sell the whole thing for Pesach.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just asking me. Yes, if a Jew owns chametz on Pesach, it may not be benefited from for Olam.
They
That's a
sell
halacha
business
called
to
chametz
so
shavar
that way
Pesach.
they can still sell chametz on Pesach if they operate. They don't sell chametz at all. I don't think.
What, duty free?
Yeah.
Whiskey is tons of whiskey there and stuff like that.
On Pesach, before been there.
Oh, no, I don't know on Pesach. No, I don't know. You're saying on Pesach? Maybe
I remember.
I don't think they're allowed to.
No.
There was a newspaper thing a while ago.
But I'm saying, but there are many shilas throughout history, going back to the times of Sam Sofer, of Jews that owned a beer factory, and they're allowed to sell the beer factory to a guy and over Pesach.
Yeah,
And,
they continue to also make sales during Pesach also.
why not? I'm saying it's a business that's owned by a non-Jew. The same thing that like anybody who has shares and stocks in companies and all of those things that are being sold, but it's doing business over Pesach. I don't know. I'm not paskening this. I'm not paskening. I'm just saying I don't know what the problem would be. In other words, it's not my business for Pesach. I've sold it to somebody else. He's doing it. I don't think I don't know. I mean, obviously,
You're not accepting the
I know
revenue
there-
during Pesach. You're surely not accepting that revenue during Pesach.
There are certainly stores in America
It's
that
more
are owned by
complicated
Jews
than
that
needs to be
sell.
addressed by this
right.
question.
So they got
They have
some
lists
stores
of
in
like
New York.
what stores have
Right.
been sold.
example, they do it.
Right.
Electronic stores are not doing business.
Well, B&H is shut
But there
down.
are stores that
Shut
do
down. They
that do
literally shut down
business.
some, but they-
Okay, that's fine. That's a halacha cholamoid. I mean,
So like Stop and Shop
There's a
is
website on
sold
shop.
for
Maybe
years
it's
and
all
years
the
and
online and
years.
everything else.
Right. Okay. So
But I think
yes
that's
or
not
no,
germane to our conversation.
especially in Chutz La'aretz, you really have to check. If there are people watching in Chutz La'aretz, you definitely have to check and make sure any store that is owned by Jewish people is sold. And over here also, I'm saying for a month after Pesach, you have to make sure that places. If you're just traveling around in Israel after Pesach and you're somewhere up north, not necessarily every place sold their chametz over Pesach. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, not everybody does it. So you have to know and be careful about that.
I did a test and when I was in high school. The local store was owned by a Jew, grocery store. So they said you had to wait a month. So I went into the kosher section and I wrote I made a mark on the bottom of like the tradition soups and some other stuff. And then I came back like 30 days later. Nobody bought that stuff.
They do,
Like, who do you think's turning over that product? The kosher
Oh, you're saying it was a month
It
later,
was-
it's still
yeah,
the same
everybody
stuff.
waits a month and it's the exact
And
same
it's the same
stuff.
stuff,
I'm saying
yeah.
for the regular like Cheerios and stuff, fine.
get
But I'm
it,
saying
yeah.
like at the kosher
So you have less of a
food
problem.
section,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
all sitting
In
there.
the supermarket, you have less of a
Very
problem.
close to
Another reason to
peaking.
make LAO.
Yeah.
Right on the edge.
Like Sunday morning, you already see stuff with labels on it. They'll say after Pesach, made after Pesach.
Here they'll for sure have that.
Also, the supermarket sells.
Okay, so should we continue? Should we go on?
Go.
Should we go on? Yeah. So let's talk about kashering a little bit. I'm going to just go through the very, very, very basics of kashering. We could spend a lot of time on it.
I
But
noticed.
skipped ovens? Where? I don't think so. Where?
Didn't see it.
The whole thing? Okay, so we'll get to ovens. If I skipped it, it wasn't on purpose. Okay, so let's just try to go through quickly, the basics of kashering, a basic overview about how we deal with it and what we're trying to do over here. So I want to deal with three different places, three different topics. Things that are not going to be used on Pesach at all, like your chametz stick, knives and forks and plates and spoons and all of that stuff, right? All that stuff you're not going to use on Pesach. Most families nowadays don't kasher their regular stuff. They have Pesach dishes and Pesach knives and forks. The stuff that's going to be used on Pesach, not for food, like you said before, like the leichter tray and washing cups and things like that, which we'll talk about. And then utensils that are going to be actually used for food that actually have to be kasher. Okay, so number one, thank you so much, thank you. The category one of stuff that's not going to be used on Pesach. So again, owning a plate that has chametz in it on Pesach is not usher, right? If crumbs are not bal yireh bal yimatzeh, so certainly the taste of chametz that's embedded in my chalent pot is not bal yireh bal yimatzeh, right? There's no isser to own that chametz in my chalent pot on Pesach, which means there's no isser to own the chametz pot on Pesach. However, just like with chametz itself, because I'm so used to using my chametz utensils all year round, if I'm going to leave them out and leave them in the regular place over Pesach, I may accidentally use them, which will be a problem, because if they've got chametz in them, even Eino ben Yom chametz is aser on Pesach, etc., even if it's more than 24 hours old. So therefore, the halacha is that stuff has to be sealed away for Pesach. We're not selling it. It doesn't have to be sold. It doesn't have to be put with stuff that's sold. Right? Very often, we're going to put it with the stuff that's sold because we don't want to bother cleaning that area. If anyway, we're putting our Pesach, our weekday dishes there, right? So we're going to put it into the cabinets or put it into the closet that we're going to sell, right? But we're not selling the actual dishes. We don't need to sell them. And if you do, then it's a shiloh of tevilah afterwards, whatever.
Cabinets I don't really need to clean.
If you're closing them off, so then you just close it off and it's sold. You don't need to clean it.
No sorting through drawers and silverware.
If you're closing off that drawer, so you just tape it shut. That's it. You don't need to do anything. On the contrary, you put your chametz in there, and then and then you're selling it. Any place that's going to be sold, you don't need to touch. Okay, so those areas again those kalim, those utensils that are not being used for Pesach must be sealed away, and they can't even be in a china cabinet behind glass. The Mishnah Berurah says they should be, not visible if they're in a china cabinet, or if you've got a china cabinet where you've got real china, so you should cover it over with a curtain or with paper or something, doilies, whatever people use for Pesach. But it has to be clearly a way that you're not going to accidentally use your Pesach your year-round utensils on Pesach. Now, surfaces and utensils that are going to be used, but not for food, things like cupboards where you put your dishes. Things like shelves around in your dining room where you don't put food, but you'll put the food utensils and things like that. Things like the washing cup, the Shabbos candle tray, and all of these things. All of these things should not be. Let's say we'll do one by one. Let's say the washing cup. You should not use your year-round washing cup that you use for Pesach. Again, it's not like really chametzik, and you're not really eating out of it, and it's not like really usher, but anything that's all the time coming so much in contact with your sink and your food and your chametz, so it's like really better to put that away for Pesach and not to use it. If you want to trade your bathroom washing cups for your sink washing cups, for Pesach, you could do that or something like that. You know what I mean? But the idea is that stuff that's coming in contact with food all year round, unless you're really going to kasher it, unless you're going to clean it super well and bleach it and do like that. But otherwise, you should not be letting that come in contact with with the stuff. When it comes to cupboards that you use for dishes. So again, you're never putting food up into your cupboards, but it's in the kitchen, and there's dishes that are there, and there's stuff that gets around, and stuff gets stuck onto dishes accidentally, and then gets put up into the cupboards. So those areas have to be cleaned out very well. Again, even though it's not likely, but we want to make sure that no chametz ended up getting smudged onto that drawer or on that surface that's now going to get smudged onto your Pesach kalim, and then it's going to end up in your food. So the minhag is, and the halachos is proper, that you're supposed to clean all these cupboards. And anything like that. And a lot of people line them also with tape. You don't have to do that. It's like if people do it, they line it with contact paper or paper. I do it at home also, but you're not really mechuyev to do that. It's just like kind of a minhag that people do as like an extra precaution, but it's not a.
So again, what?
To cover, in addition to cleaning.
To cover what?
The shelves where we put our dishes, we put paper down.
Not the counters.
Yeah, not on the counters. We get the counters separately, but we have right above our counters. We've got the cabinets where we have our dishes. So we wash it out very, very well. You can see it clearly. It's formica. There's no crumbs there. But anyway, we put a piece of paper down just to do that. Yeah.
You have to wash it with a spray that's like a cleaning spray specifically.
No,
that,
there's not
prevents
really
any
food up
crumbs?
there. No, there's not really any This is like a chash rachok over here. Where this is not a place that is used for food. It's not a place that food goes. It's a place where dishes go. And, yes, it's possible, epis, that something happened, but we don't have to go so far to use abrasive cleansers over there.
What about like my pantry where I do know there's food, but I want to clean it out and use it for Pesach?
If it's a place where food actually is stored and you're actually using food, then you have to cover it. And you just really clean it and cover it. Again, if it's for Micah or something, and you're clean and you're convinced and sure that there's no chametz there, there's no halacha in Shulchan Aruch that says it needs to be covered and you can't use it without covering it. Just the thing is to be extra careful, to make sure, and you want to make absolutely sure that you didn't miss anything. So we cover it also just to make sure. But that's not like the same level as is required. The Shabbos candle tray you could use, on Pesach. Again, you just have to wash it very well and make sure that there's no actual chametz on it. Even though, again, that's the type of thing. It's feasible that it got in contact with chametz and this and that, but that we don't have to worry about. And you have to just make sure that it's fully clear. Okay. Now, things that are going to be used for food on Pesach. So these are things that are going to need to be kashered, need to be cleaned very carefully if they're only with cold food, or kashered if they're coming in contact with hot food. And we'll try to do a quick overview of how to do this over here. The two issues on Pesach that make Pesach much more serious than any other area of the year, any other area of kashrus or meat and milk or anything like that, is that number one. On Pesach, normally we know the idea of bittul b'shishim, right? If I've got a chalent pot and a little bit of milk falls in my chalent pot or something, okay, it's nishka ferlich, 1/60th is okay, and it won't be treif, right? So on Pesach, there's no such halacha. 1 crumb of chametz falls into a huge vat of chicken soup, and the whole thing becomes chametzdik. And number two, during the year, we have this rule that unless you're dealing with spicy food like onions and garlic and stuff like that, but under normal circumstances, if the food is eno ben yomo, if it's more than 24 hours old, so the taste inside of it, right, is considered old. It's considered eno ben yomo. It's pagum. It's no longer able to make something aser. On Pesach, that doesn't account, and we're machmir even eno ben yomo. Okay, so that means that even an old pot, that hasn't been used in a few weeks and it's clean, and even a tiny bit of use of it, even I dip 1 spoon into a big pot of chicken soup, the whole thing can become aser, and that's why Pesach we have to take it much more seriously, and therefore kashering on Pesach is on a much higher level than when you kasher under normal circumstances.
Is that going to expand up to a full year? Like,
What do you mean?
We say we don't apply, it doesn't apply, so would we say that would it not have been Yomo, but a Ben Shana?
Oh, very good. Okay, so that's a very good question. There's a big question in the poskim that is there ever a time that the taste is more than just pagum and the taste actually breaks down completely, that even like on Pesach or even a spicy food would not have the potential to wake it up. So there's a big. I'm sorry. By the last day. That's one of the things they say. They're mitzvah that the
glass pot. A glass papyrus.
So we'll get to 1 second. Api Pashtas no. In other words, the basic halacha is no. Most poskim say that a year doesn't make a difference. Although I have gotten a psak from a vice in a situation about very very old, like heirloom china or something like that had not been used in over a decade or something like that, and he permitted the person to use it, even though it was likely used for non kosher food. Under those circumstances, he permitted.
Because a lot of estates sell China all the time, and people from the doctor don't buy China.
I wouldn't go and buy one. I'm saying I don't think you should buy one, because then you're going and doing that lechatchila. But this was a situation that person inherited it and handed it to the evet, and they wanted to know if they could use it. And Rav Weiss is Nagel. I don't think that he would say that you should go ahead and buy one, because it's available. Okay. So now, when it comes to kashering, there are certain rules that apply to everything, meaning anything that we're going to be talking about, whether it's a countertop or a knife or a kiddush cup or a pot or anything like that we're going to kasher. There are certain rules that apply across the board. So before we get into, if we'll have time and get into them, before we get into the specifics of how to kasher each specific thing, the rules that apply to all of them are as follows. Number one, it has to be completely cleaned. It has to be thoroughly, completely cleaned. Every joint, every corner. In order for something to be kasher, it has to be fully clean. The reason being very logical, that if there's any food left attached to it, and now I'm going to dump hot water on it, all that's going to do is going to cook that food back into the pot or back into the surface, right? So before I kasher something, it has to be completely and totally clean, totally smooth and clean. Any visible food or grease, rust, stains, joints, screw heads, cracks, all of these things have to be gone over, sometimes even with a toothpick. If you're talking about a pot that's old, it's been used for a long time, and you want to kosher it, it could be around the screw and the place where the handles meets and stuff like that. It could be the stuff caked on. You really have to clean it very, very, very well. And make sure that it's completely clear. Now, if there's like a rust stain that's left after you've scrubbed it and everything, and you're sure it's not, food or grease, it's like a rust stain that's there, and it's completely smooth. So, you should ask a shaila. It really depends, because there's some poskim who say that it's still a problem because you don't know if, like, in that rust there's maybe still some food grease or chametz grease that's stuck in there. So if you can't get something completely clean, you kind of, you should really ask a shaila. But usually nowadays you can get stuff very clean the way they make things. Okay, so that's number one. It should be very, very clean. If something can't get cleaned properly, your two options are, one, to burn it, with a fire, which we'll get to in terms of doing libun, which like a blowtorch, if it'll handle it, or like you brought before you the idea of using ammonia or an abrasive cleanser or something proper, like that's going to, even if there be chametz there, that it'll make the chametz pavum, it'll make the chametz taste bad, like abrasive stuff. Yeah.
Do you have to unscrew something?
No, you don't have to unscrew it. No, you just have to clean around it
Clean around
very
it.
well. Yes. Yeah. Keep cleaning around it well. It could be unscrewing it would let you clean it better. It could be you're not able to clean it right unless you unscrew it. It could be if you have a pot with a lot of stuff that's caked on, it could be that you won't be able to get it out properly without unscrewing it. So
You have to take it off anyway to kasher, no? If you're going to go on the pot.
no, you don't have to take it apart. You
You
don't
don't
have
take the
to.
handles off?
No,
No?
I don't think so. Never heard that before. Just wash it well.
Water can get in and it's not, you have to, you having
It doesn't. Yeah, it could go any place that the blios got in, the water will get into. If you know what I mean. Places that it couldn't get into, it can't get into, from before either. Okay, then after the cleaning, you have to let it sit for 24 hours. This is important, right? Kashering takes planning.
Sinks in your kitchen.
Yeah, with a sink in the kitchen, this is the hardest one to do because you have to let it wait. If you use cold water in it or something, it's not going to undo the timer and start it over again. But you should not let your kids do that, and you shouldn't get in the habit of doing it. You should really try to make it off limits for 24 hours. With the sinks, this is the hardest one to do in the kitchen. This is like one of the last things to be done, before you turn off the kitchen right at the end. But the sinks, need to be cleaned. Then let sit for 24 hours, and then before the kashering. The same thing with anything, anything that you're going to be kasher, etc. Like I wrote here in bold, if you have a situation where all of a sudden you realize that Pesach that you need to kasher something and you don't have the 24 hours, then you should ask a shaila. There's sometimes a poskim will be in terms of adding ammonia into the water or something like that. But that's really on a case by case basis. Okay.
Practically speaking, it sounds like the really the last time to kasher a sink would be like the morning of the 14th.
Well, the last time to clean it to get ready to kasher it, right? And we have to do the morning of the 14th, so you can kasher it on the 15th.
You have to wait 24 hours after you clean it?
You have to clean it and then wait 24 hours, right? After the cleaning. The idea being that any taste that would have been re-infused in the cleaning process will now also have 24 hours to lapse before you kasher it. That's the idea. Okay, now the idea behind kashering is like a simple mechanic that the Torah tells us, basically, which is called kabolo kach kolto, that the way the taste gets in, that's the way that it has to get out. Meaning things that get taste directly from the fire, like a grill, or things like in an oven. So those can only be kashered with direct contact with a fire or with heat. Things that get taste into them through liquid, like spills on a countertop or in a pot or a spoon, so those can be kashered with liquid, right? So the idea is the way that the taste gets in is the way that the taste gets out. So keeping that in mind, we're going to go through the different parts of the kitchen and address each one, how to properly go through and kasher them. And I'm saying all along the way I quoted different things from the Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah Berurah. You can see as I'm going, I'm not going to quote it inside as we do this. Okay, so when it comes to countertops and tables and surfaces like this, so first of all we have to know that not every surface can be kashered, right? Certain surfaces, if they're made of wood, if they're made of certain types of granite and things like that, then they're not kasherable at all, and then they just have to be covered, to cover them properly.
From what I understand, most of our countertops most houses today are shayish kashering.
So I think there's different types. I've been in different houses, and there's different things in different people's houses. So I don't want to say I don't want to say most or whatever. I don't know the different things. What did you say? Shayish kesar?
Yeah,
That's what it's
Caesar
called?
stone.
Caesar stone. And they
There's
say
a lot
that
of that,
can't.
but there's also
Most
blood
of
marble.
the, some people have marble, but the average
People do it
Californian
specifically so they can
ground
crusher.
down and they get glued together.
Right.
Right.
People get the marble
I've
specifically
seen,
so
but
they
I
can
haven't
crush it.
seen. I haven't
Right.
seen very many. Not even.
Yeah,
in
marble
Ramadan, I
is a
haven't seen
single
very many.
slab, and Caesar stone is crushed together. In a
And they say you can kosher Caesar
Caesar
stone.
stone is
You
not
can't.
kosherable.
You cannot.
No,
Right. I
it's-
would say, I would assume you
it's
can.
compacted sand and
Right,
glass
right,
and whatever.
like that, right. So okay, so I don't know. That's what I'm saying. But so as a lot of times countertops, depending on what it is, can for mica also plastic. They say can't be
Some say
kosher.
you could do Caesar stone if there's not even a scratch at all or anything. It's totally still smooth and like.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know the details, but I'm saying, but most of the time, in a situation like that, you should cover it anyway, and not just rely on the kashering. If you have a really kosherable counter, you have a metal countertop, or you have a countertop that can be koshered. So then the process is, like we said, it has to be cleaned well, and that's it for 24 hours. And then you have to, boil up a hot, kumkum, a hot, urn of water, a hot pot of water, and you have to pour over the whole surface, hot water until it covers the whole surface. Mr. Brewer says it's a chumrah that you should do because since not only do things spill on the hot countertop, but sometimes you put hot pots down on the counter. So Mr. Brewer says that in addition to with the water, what you should do is he says like an Evan Maluban, you should be moving a hot rock on, which you could do with an iron if you do it very carefully. But this is a very, very difficult procedure. I wouldn't recommend doing this.
I am off duty on that.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't recommend doing this. There are people who do this. Yeah, you can get lectured.
water and a hot iron.
It's a dangerous thing to do. I wouldn't recommend it. But
I've heard people use a steam cleaner for specific
yeah, that
like the
goes
water,
more than
it uses
212
water
degrees.
and it's like right.
Yeah,
exactly.
that, if you have a steam cleaner, you can do that.
I know the Gamas and Silver Spring people like that.
Yeah, people do this sort of thing. Right, they have these steam cleaners that heats water under pressure. Yeah, it makes it more than 212 degrees. It's like hotter than boiling, and you could use that to do it also. If you have that, then that works because it's hot water, hotter than boiling water. So that you're allowed to do. Okay, but basically for countertops, basically what most people do is cover them either with heavy duty tin foil or with contact paper or something after cleaning them thoroughly. If it's cleaned very, very thoroughly, and you'll kosher it, and then contact paper is enough.
Tinfoil is going to rip.
No, the heavy tinfoil does not rip. I use
Heavy
that.
tinfoil, the roll.
I use those heavy rolls of like whatever it is, 100, 150, whatever it is, and it's you
Once
have to
they
wear
cut your
gloves.
fingers really well,
You have to wear gloves when it's like
Yeah.
cuts your hands up. It's it's heavy.
But the PVC is good enough, right?
Yeah, PVC for sure. Thick, plastic, those little thin things are like that. Contact paper again, if you're you have to be very sure that it's not gonna rip and there's not going to be spills that are going to go underneath and things like that. But anything that you're using that is going to cover the countertop completely, that's okay.
Is there any practical tips in terms of the way of 24 hours?
What do you mean in terms of ways how to do
For a
it?
sink.
Takeout. It's called pre-Pesach takeout.
My wife's deal is no matter when
Simmer.
Shabbos Hagadol is, she
Simmer.
turns over Matzah Shabbos Hagadol, period. Unless it's 2 days before. So this year
Okay.
we're eating Pesach 2 weeks.
That's where we.
2 weeks we eat Pesach.
Nice.
Okay.
That's great.
That's very much.
Now, okay, when it comes to the sink,
Wait,
so,
just
yeah.
one-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yep.
You said it says here if you are planning on covering the surface, you must pour hot water on the entire surface.
So again, depending on what you're planning on, as I said, like with contact paper, then I would use your kosher. If you're using
But if
a
it's
heavy
something,
tin
I
foil or
use
something, or-
vinyl flooring actually.
That's fine. That's like a whole new top.
That's
yeah.
a whole-
You
there's
don't
nothing
need-
getting
yeah,
through
there's
that.
nothing. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Right.
Okay. When it comes to the sink, so again, it can only be koshered if it's made of metal. If it's made of porcelain or plastic or all those other things, and then you need to be getting yourself a sink insert, which they sell all over the place over here, to use in the sink. But the other parts of the sink you do have to kosher. The spout where the water comes out. We have one of those spouts that the water thing that pulls out. So what I do is for Pesach is I pull it out further than it ever goes. As I move the thing down underneath the sink, so I pull it out and I kosher that whole thing, and then I keep it sealed for Pesach. And as we don't pull it out for Pesach. We only. Right. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. We switch the heads for Pesach. It's very cheap. I'm saying it's very cheap to do, and it's much
Ketchup or
easier.
any
Exactly.
rubber
Yeah. We just switch that whole head for Pesach. It costs nothing, and it's faster than cleaning. And we just keep them from year to year. So we have the 2 Pesach heads and 2 weekday heads. And that way you don't have to deal with changing all the filters and all these types of things, whatever. But you have to be very careful in terms of kashering. All the other parts of the sink. The sink itself, again, if it's made of metal, so after washing it, letting it sit for 24 hours, you have to make sure it's totally, totally dry, and then you just pour the hot water in. 1 urn is usually enough to get a whole sink. Kind of start from the outside and work your way in, either in circles or back and forth. And then after you pour the water,
the same way.
Yeah, the faucet, the top of the faucet, the whole thing. We have a water, one of those water drinker things. We pour water on that also. Just pour water on.
Do I have to turn on the hot water?
They're actually like plastic with the shower.
So if it's plastic, then kashering doesn't help. Then you should just wash it off very, very well. Plastic kashering doesn't do
Put
it.
cover in, no?
Yeah.
So you can't even kasher
Or
glass.
change it.
I'm sorry.
So for Pesach specifically, you can't kasher glass.
Well, glass is a shiloh all year round, but on Pesach for sure we don't kasher. Yeah, for sure not. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, one last
It's
question.
harder
to-
When I was once told that when I turned the kasher, I remember where I saw it, I think on Hofstadter, that you have to turn on the hot water in the faucet and then pour hot water on. It's such a reason for such a thing?
So it's hot from the inside also? I don't know. I never
Such a
heard
thing?
that.
Did I see a reason for that?
I don't know. No, I'm not familiar with that. Okay. The drain, it's best to switch, the drain piece on the bottom, because that's very hard. It gets like that rubber thing on the bottom and food gets stuck on it. That's really better to switch. It's very hard to clean that properly. It's also only costs a few shekel in the store. The same with the faucet heads, the tips, it's better to switch those also. Okay, when you're pouring, what type of utensil to use? It's best to use a non-benyomo, year-round utensil that does not come in direct contact with the chametz. Like a hot water kettle. So if you have a hot water kettle that's clean and doesn't get used with actual chametz.
Not to use my Pesach hot water kettle.
So it seems not. I think I do though. I don't know why I wrote this over here. I'm pretty sure that we use our Pesach kettle. Okay, let me double check this. I wrote here to use your year-round kettle. I'm pretty sure we use our Pesach one, but I have to double check this. I'm gonna double check this one. Okay, so again, the surface has to be clean thoroughly. Wait 24 hours, and then you have to pour. And you should immediately rinse the area afterwards in cold water. Okay, now when it comes to ovens, well, you're right, I didn't have it here on the sheets, I'm not sure why. So yeah, nowadays the truth is usually simpler than it is. Almost everybody has nowadays self-cleaning ovens. Yeah?
If your chametz kettle, the water in it is not kosher Pesach.
Well, that's an Eina ben Yomo. An Eina ben Yomo, but not a chametz kettle, because they don't actually use it for chametz. It's only being used for water all year round.
But I'm saying we use pots for the kashering.
That's also fine.
Pots.
You do. Like I said, I want to double check that. I'm sure that we use a Pesach kumkum. I know that we pack it away every year and leave it at the top so that it's available right at the beginning of
For sure use it.
things. Yeah, so I want to double check if I made a mistake on the sheet.
Can you use the regular kumkum on Pesach?
No, you should not. No, you definitely should not. No.
Why?
Because it's out with your chametz all year round. I'm saying it's out on your kitchen and it's hot and there's chametz all around all the time and you're using it with chametz hands.
Inside it is only water.
No, I know, but if it's hot and the chametz touches the outside, so the whole thing becomes chametz stick. It gets balua into the thing. It becomes a. You should definitely
Or
not
when
use
you
it.
pour hot water over chametz pasta, for example,
And the steam comes up. Yeah, I'm saying that you definitely should not use the same hot water either. It's not the same urn or not the same hot water. And on Shabbos also. That's
Do you have, is it absolutely required to rinse everything with cold water afterwards, or is that like?
Yeah, you're supposed to. You're supposed to rinse it right away. I'm saying it's a halacha. Why? What's the issue with that?
No, I'm just saying like you can't possibly rinse with cold water every single centimeter of your, like you may miss part of it.
Yeah, I'm saying you just give it a rinse, just like give it a splash cold water there. Yeah, no, it's not the same thing. It's more important that the hot water gets there than the cold water afterwards. But the idea is that we're not supposed to let the hot water there, steaming hot, stay there. You're supposed to rinse it off so that it's it gets washed away. The hot water gets washed away. But it doesn't have to be every square centimeter. A lot of towels on the floor, a lot of sponges. Yeah. Okay, and when it comes to oven, if you have a self-cleaning oven, that's the easiest thing to do. You run the self-cleaning cycle on whatever the highest cycle is, and then you're good to go for Pesach. If you have a non-self-cleaning oven, so then you kasher it basically the same way as you kasher everything else. You have to clean it very, very well, with abrasive cleansers and getting away all the stains as much as you can, and all the rust and all the bits and everything as much as you can. Let it sit for 24 hours, and then you put it onto the highest setting, for like 4 or 5 hours, and that's again kabbalah kach polta. The way
Then covered in tin foil.
On the inside?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
depends.
I'm sorry?
The Hilchos Pesach was that yes, but nobody passed. Most people don't pass.
Yeah, I'm saying if you're confident that it's clean and you're confident that you had it burning on that temperature, for those 4 or 5 hours, so then I can double check again also, but I don't think that you have to cover everything on the inside then once you do that. Yeah.
I was gonna say, this over here, you say push the Pesach pot should be used for the.
Oh, so right, it's like a steer then to the
Right,
previous
and
one.
that's, because that's what we use, what we do is we'll like fill the
Yeah,
pots
I'm
up,
assuming so,
put
yeah.
all of our like Kiddush cups and
Yeah,
stuff in
yeah,
it,
yeah.
kosher those, and then take that, but then afterwards.
Use that water for the-
use that water.
Yeah, I have to double check why I wrote that. I'm not sure why I wrote that.
So I just wanted to clarify. I think maybe the racks are a different problem.
Oh, some of the racks, yeah.
Racks.
As far as the
inside-
kashering racks, okay,
Yeah.
so the racks you should, it's really preferable to have separate racks for Pesach if you can. If you could have a
Anybody
separate set of
smell
racks on the
that,
inside, it's definitely preferable to have separate racks for Pesach. If you can't get separate racks, and you can clean them very thoroughly and burn them out inside the oven, then you should cover those with tin foil. You should cover the racks with foil. That's yeah. I'm talking about like the inside walls of the oven. We don't have to do. As far as the grates on top of the oven are concerned, so there's also, if you could put them in a self-cleaning oven and they'll last, you could do that, but apparently they get ruined sometimes, depending on what they're made of. But what you could do to kasher them is as follows: you clean them off until they're as clean as you can get them, and then you flip them on the burner and turn the burner on the highest for about 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just doing like in 2 dimensions. It goes like this over the burner, so you flip it like this, so it's resting on that disc, in the middle, and then you turn the fire on, so the fire is now like in the metal, like the metal is in the fire, the metal pieces that are there, and you leave it on for like 20 minutes or so.
You don't need to cover it.
No, Postal say you don't need to cover it, and it's dangerous to cover it because it gets too hot and it can melt melt things. I heard specifically Postal say not to cover it.
What about the outside of the racks? I'm saying
The heat travels and it gets there. That's they say. The top of the stove should be covered. The top of the oven area of the in between the burners should be covered. If you don't cover it, then things that fall there for Pesach, you shouldn't have. Okay, when it comes to kashering,
Can I have
yeah.
one? A lot of people, some people have a glass top or something like that for the top of the stove.
Yeah,
So if you don't, you have to cut. You should. I mean, from what I understood, that should probably be covered also. No.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Which
Yeah, but the top part that leans, like stands up and leans against the wall. Sometimes
It's
you
like
pick
a
up the
cover
stuff.
for the whole thing.
Oh,
like a back, like
Yeah, yeah, so
yeah,
because of backsplash. That's
yeah.
why-
I
because
assume
all
you
the
should cover
steam comes
that.
in
Yeah,
also.
yeah. I assume you should cover that. That's the backsplash of the wall. Okay, when it comes to kashering, like pots and kitchen utensils. So if you have a pot that's itself is a big pot that won't fit into any other pots, so what you do, well, let's talk with smaller things first. Things that will fit into other pots, either smaller pots or knives and forks and things like that. So you boil up a big pot of water, a Pesach pot of water until it's coming to a strong roiling boil, like it's really boiling, and then you put in the pieces, and that lechatchila you should do it one by one with like a pincers. Lechatchila you should do it one by one and just like
every corner.
Yeah, you could do it down there. Yeah, you could do it in these corner shops. But when you go to them, you have to make sure it's boiling very well. Sometimes it's not hot enough. Sometimes they have it going and it's not really boiling hot enough. You really have to make sure if you're going there that it's really boiling properly, and only do it if it's boiling to that degree. And then you put the stuff in one by one, and again you're supposed to rinse it off. Rinse it off afterwards. If you're talking about kashering a pot itself, if you have a pot at home that you want to kasher, like a big pot, so you fill it up with water again and boil it, to a strong boiling boil, and then the halacha is you have to overflow it, but you're not allowed to let the water cool off while you're overflowing. So you can't just take a rock, or a hammer and put it in there to displace the water, overflow it. You have to take something that itself is very hot and put it in there. So what people do, and I've done this, is they take a rock from outside and they put it on the stove and get the rock till it's on the fire and it's very, very, very hot. And then once the pot of water is boiling, you call all the kids in to stand at a distance. It's very exciting to watch. And then you take pincers or something, not with your hands obviously, or 2 hammers, whatever. That's what I did it with. And you pick it up and you put the rock into the boiling water, and it boils over, and it does a whole big. Yeah, it's very exciting.
And your wife
Fun.
is very
And
unhappy.
it's very fun.
Very
But no, she's happy because now her pot is kosher.
It's good to have houses made out of total
it's,
stone. In America, it doesn't get so well.
Yeah.
My mother has like a big Like
Good news is he-
Yeah, some people have this thing, very good. Yeah, people in Europe used to have a thing in their house, like they had a name for it, they had a thing in the house that this was used to kasher, like the kasher block, whatever it was. And they used to, a piece of metal that used to put on the fire and just drop in there and it burns and it overflows. But the idea is that the boiling water has to overflow over the top of the...
Is there anything to the idea I've heard? I mean, maybe Pesach's not together. When you're kashering during the year, do you pour soap or a spoiling agent into the pot of boiling water? Or
No,
something?
so that's only in a situation where you can't wait 24 hours or something like that. So the Chazon Ish said that if you're poking the water with ammonia or something like that, a little bit, that's okay. Okay, the only other thing I'll mention is I just saw this year a tshuva from Rosh Weiss, and I'll finish with this in terms of dental questions. As far as fillings and dental prosthetics and these type of things are concerned, so a question I've seen many times over the years, does the person have to be careful in terms of chametz and on Pesach and not eating chametz before Pesach for 24 hours or anything like that, or about apparently I saw a psak that some poskim say that if you've got fillings, you're not allowed to chew maror, you're not allowed to chew like spicy things on Pesach, because just like a knife, cutting into garlic or an onion, or this in Carlet says this, just like a knife cutting into garlic or onions, it pulls out the taste from the knife. So the chewing does that. So I saw a beautiful truth from Rasher Weiss where he disagrees, and he says, he does say, I was very surprised he does say that a person could be machmir. He says, mi'ikra din, you don't have to be, but he does say, if a person wants to, they should be machmir to not have hot chametz for 24 hours before Pesach, if you've got fillings. So he said, it was very interesting. If you want a chumrah this year, you can have a chumrah, not to have hot chametz for 24 hours before Pesach. However, he said, halacha l'maisa, why is it mutter? L'maisa, you have to answer, why is it mutter? He's right, you're grinding up onions and garlic. What's the difference? So he said, very beautiful. He said, because, he said, what's bad breath, right? Your mouth makes stuff disgusting. Your mouth, it's full of enzymes, it's full of things that are breaking down the food and making it disgusting. So he said, your mouth makes the tam pagum in the chametz, and that is beautiful, right? And therefore, even onions and garlic are not going to wake up that taste, and therefore he says it's mutter. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what he was.
You don't have your teeth? You don't have your teeth for Pesach? You obviously not brisket.
Gather the children around.
Okay, thank you again. Are there any questions? Anything in general?
Yes.
Pesach questions?
What materials,
Yeah.
just a quick second, what
Button.
quick materials that should not be kosher?
Glass,
Glass,
plastic.
Plastic's the main one.
What about rubber or like...
Rubber also not. Rubber
So
can't catch it.
inside of a dishwasher where you've got plastic racks and stuff, that's why dishwashers...
So that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem with the
Microwaves are
dishwasher.
plastic inside.
Well, microwaves are good
Not
question.
just the
Yeah,
racks,
but
also
also-
The walls are plastic.
That's not plastic.
No,
It's like some sort of metal.
Metal side versus...
Some sort of metal that doesn't.
Is it not plastic?
I don't think so.
So microwaves for Pesach could be kosher?
Door.
The vice holds you can catch my
Same way kosher in here?
You put a cup in?
Yeah, you
and-
put it, boil it up. Yeah, that's it. You have to wash it and wait 24 hours. But then, yeah, that's it.
Then
Yeah.
it would, it would start.
Okay, very good.
Induction
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Induction stovetop.
Ooh, okay.
You
Induction.
can't do induction because it's glass.
Starcake claims that you can just do it because it's the stovetop itself isn't getting hot, it's the pot that's getting hot. And
Why not? Yeah, that sounds good to me. It
But
sounds
it's
good.
glass. Rav Asher White.
Oh, it's glass?
I asked him.
Oh.
He said no. He said no.
Oh, is it a glass on top? What's
the
the?
top is glass.
Ah, but if it's
I asked him. I
glass.
asked Rav Asher White. He said no.
Yeah, they said even though it's glass, you could do that. Even though
I
it's,
was told it cannot be kosher for one simple reason. We tried koshering your leg with one ear and it shattered. If it's gonna happen, then that, you're not gonna kosher properly.
Oh, that's how it is.
No,
You can't
This
do
is
it.
induction.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
The idea is that you don't have to because
Robert, you want to
glass
take
is
a part?
not doing the cooking. The element doesn't get hot. It's the pot that gets hot.
Right, but the point is that let's say your pot spilled over one time, and the hot pot now, right? The pot is very, very hot, and now you've got a spillage getting between
They
the.
claim it's Leroy Cleary shown because it's not the surface itself is not hot, so that's the way it became.
And it's only by the
That's
Cleary.
what you do in order to clean it, which is,
Okay, I'd like to ask your advice about it. I hear
I
that. I
asked
hear
him.
that. I
He
hear what
said
you're saying.
you can't. I asked him.
I understand, but he's asking why not, if it's.
No, but let's, what
Well,
if it's
Starcade's always
magnetic,
been
right?
lenient on
So
glass
you connect
top
one
ovens.
magnet, which is underneath it.
Glass
and
top
one
stoves in
they're-
America.
Oh, they're making, anyway, yeah.
So,
well,
I believe, like, I know that in Silver Spring, the Republic said you could not use it on Pesach at all. There's really no way to cover it, because
Right,
there's nothing
it's
you
all
can
break,
do.
right.
It's basically don't buy them, and if you have one that's very expensive, they still tell you to buy a new oven, but if you can't, it's effective, whatever, then just use something else on Pesach. It's absolutely not kosher. It's starting out,
Many times touch the glass.
It's not just hot.
So-
So he says this doesn't get hot. Well,
It gets warm, it doesn't
Glass
get
itself
hot.
is not getting hot.
The glass won't get
you could
hot,
touch
there's no magnet.
when it's on.
Touch it with your hands.
When it's on fully, I can touch it. It's not gonna get hot.
Yes,
That's
yes.
because you didn't close the magnetic connection. The way induction by definition works is there's a magnetic pulse
But it's
going from
not-
one thing to the other
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and
but
that
it's
creates
not-
the
it's
heat.
not heating
The
the
glass
glass.
is between the two heat. It needs.
But once the magnet is on and the glass gets very hot, I can.
No,
no,
I mean, if I
no,
physically
no,
stick my
no,
hand in
no,
there-
Yes, yes, you can.
It gets warm, you
You
can put your hand
cannot-
on, but
if
it's
it gets warm,
Right,
then
stop it,
it's
stop it.
hot.
It's not-